Hello, darling. I was thinking some stuff, and it seemed worth sharing. I was thinking about the way that both luck and effort are required for success, even in a meritocracy, and how complicated that makes it for us to fairly reward successful people. The idea of fairness is something most of us think is important. It's one of the earliest concepts that we teach young children, and thus one of the earliest things that most of us ourselves were taught. As such, it's a foundational concept, underpinning a lot of what we later built on top of it. Just like everyone thinks that they are the hero of their own story, so everyone thinks that they try to be fair when possible. And most people want to live in a society where people are fairly rewarded for the effort that they put in. This is why we like the idea of a meritocracy, a society where anyone has the same chance to succeed based on their own qualities, rather than who their parents were or where they went to school. Let's stick to financial rewards to begin with. How do we fairly reward people by paying them for the work that they do? Well, most people either get paid for the time they spend working, an hourly rate, an annual salary, or they get paid for the things that they make, so that if in an hour they are more productive than the person next to them, then they will earn more money than that less productive person. When we ask the question of whether being paid a fixed salary is more or less fair than being paid on productivity, the answer is almost always sometimes. Being paid based on how much of a thing you produce, or based on how good the quality of your work is, often seems fairer from the outside. But it's also true that most of the time those choices are driven not by being fair, but rather by motivating people to work harder. And that only seems like a better system when there are also safeguards in place to protect people from burnout or self-harm. As a teacher, I spent most of my working life being paid an annual salary. So long as I turned up at the time I was supposed to and taught my lessons, carried out my other duties, and behaved well enough to not get sacked, then I could rely on getting paid at the end of every month. I could earn more by successfully applying for other roles and responsibilities within the school. Some schools do also pay staff based on the results they achieve, with a smaller fixed salary being supplemented by bonuses which are effectively based on productivity. Financial rewards have to work differently based on the sort of job that you do. Someone who's making pots can be paid by the pot, or can be self-employed and sell their own pots. Someone who's working in the music industry often doesn't get paid by the song or by the hour. They won't expect to be paid twice as much for a song that took them twice as long to write. They might release a recording of their song and get a tiny amount of money per download or stream. And they might also tour around playing their songs live and get a cut of the ticket sales for those gigs. They are clearly paid by productivity rather than drawing a salary, but the product in question is a gig, not a song. For the lucky few who make it really big, they might sell enough albums to be able to live just off the downloads and streams, but there are very few of them, and they are very lucky. So let's talk about luck. I should say in advance that the argument that I'm about to make is not something that I have any evidence for. I can't show you research or cite my sources. It is a thing that I believe to be true, and I believe it because it just seems obvious to me, looking around at the way the world works and the way life is, and how much of what happens to any person on any day feels like random chance. I think that life is full of randomness, and that any model that fails to recognise that is inevitably flawed. I know that sometime over the next few months I will have 1 or 2 days when everything seems to go right, when things just fall into place, and that I will also have 1 or 2 days when everything goes wrong, where everything I touch breaks and every dice rolls low. I know that because it has always been true. I have learned it from experience. Either life contains inherent randomness, or life is such a complex and interconnected system with so many variables that aren't knowable to us that it appears random, is indistinguishable from randomness. When I look back on my life and the choices that I made and the paths that I chose, it seems to me that many of the key moments only happened because I just happened to be in a certain place at a certain time. Luck played at least a bigger part in any success that I had as skill did, or effort, or good judgment. That's not to say that I never showed good judgment, or relied upon my skills, or put in effort. I did all of those things. But many of my successes were also due to good luck, to random chance, to being in the right place at the right time. And many of my failures were maybe also due to bad luck, the wrong place, the wrong time. I think this has been true for me. I also think that it is equally true for almost everybody else. I don't think that good luck alone can make someone a musical superstar. I think it takes massive effort and perseverance. But for every successful music star, I think that there are thousands of other people trying to do the same and working just as hard, showing equally massive effort and perseverance, and not hitting the big time. So, I admire the talent and skill of the megastars, and I acknowledge how hard they work, but I also believe that their success owes an equal amount to luck. Now, let's be clear. I don't think most people who choose a career in the music industry do so because they expect it to be fair. They hope to be fairly paid for the work that they do, certainly. Paid the agreed amount for this gig or that recording session. But they probably realise that very few people make a really good living at it. They want to be able to get by and not starve, of course, but many of them would accept that they are also buying a lottery ticket. They want to be in with a chance of getting lucky, of being in the right place at the right time, of catching their big break. Without the tiny possibility of winning that lottery, they might never have chosen that career. The reason why I think more musicians walk in with their eyes at least half open to the reality of what they are signing up for is that we often see this model for a musical career portrayed in popular media. It's been a fairly common narrative for both the music industry and the film industry for many decades. My thesis here is that actually this model, that being successful owes as much to luck as effort, is actually far more widespread. That it is the actual pattern for success in almost every career, and in almost all areas of life. I want to really stress here that effort is also involved. I am no way trying to deny all of the genuine hard work put in by successful people. I just think that there are others working just as hard right down the corridor from them and not getting the success, through sheer bad luck. I need to pause for a moment here to recognise that there is, in fact, a third element at play in the stories of successful people, in addition to effort and luck, because we do not actually live in a true meritocracy. That third element is privilege, either in the form of inherited wealth or through some other accident of birth or background. Being born male, for example, puts you on the right side of a significant gender pay gap in most countries. Certainly, some people born from a privileged background enjoy the benefits of a support structure that may allow them to try and fail repeatedly until they finally succeed, whereas those from less privileged backgrounds need to succeed on their first attempt or walk away from the table. This is not a video about the problems of inherited wealth, and I'm not going to talk further about privilege today. We know that it's not fair. We would like the distortions of inherited wealth, or gender, or race, to play a smaller part in our society than they currently do. So, we accept the idea that people deserve to be paid for the time they put into their job, and also for the outcomes that they achieve. It does seem fairer that someone who puts in twice as many hours should earn more. It does seem fairer that someone who has twice as many good outcomes should earn more. It seems fairer to include some element of productivity rather than just a fixed hourly rate, because we want some way to check how much effort each person is putting into their hour's work, and give greater rewards the more effort they are putting in. In this simplified model, people just leaving school and wanting to make good money could look around at other people making good money and treat them as role models. The lesson would be, put in the hours and put in the effort, and you will be rewarded. I see this all the time in modern society, the sense of treating successful people as role models. There is a thriving arm of the publishing and entertainment industries focused entirely on discussing and examining the habits and practices of highly successful people. Very successful YouTubers can have very successful YouTube channels, which consist mainly of interviews with other highly successful YouTubers. This is not a video about whether YouTube is a pyramid scheme, however. Most of the tendrils of this industry are not quite so self-referential. If the money you make doing something is primarily driven by how much you work or how well you work, then the amount of money you make is a fairly natural marker for success. We expect successful people to earn big money, and people who earn big money to be successful. When this does not happen, it is a dissonance worthy of comment. Van Gogh's lack of success in his own lifetime is a central feature of his story because it seems so unfair and unnatural. When bosses get big bonuses while their companies flounder and fail, we read about the injustice of this in the newspapers. The problem with the current situation, for me, is that I believe that successful people did put in lots of effort, but also had lots of luck. And I believe that there are many, many other people who put in just as much effort and did not get that lucky, did not get that big money, did not get that success. When I see successful presenters interviewing successful CEOs about their success, it feels like lottery winners interviewing other lottery winners about how skillfully they won their money. It bothers me that people who get rich feel that they've earned it, and that people who don't get rich feel that this failure is a reflection of their personal qualities. We talk about meritocracy today as if it's a very aspirational thing for a society to aim towards. But it's worth keeping in mind that the term was first coined by someone who thought it was a bad idea, and that the word was then first popularized by someone using it in satire. The word meritocracy was first used in May 1956 in an article in Socialist Commentary by the British sociologist Alan Fox. He used it derisively. The problem with any society that considers itself a meritocracy is that people with money and success can easily come to feel that they deserve that, and also to feel that others without those things must therefore not deserve them. It is all too tempting for successful people to downplay the role of luck in their successes. They can easily become oblivious to it and fall into believing their own PR. I am aware that there are two problems with my lottery winner metaphor. Firstly, getting rich by winning the lottery can be done by just buying a single cheap ticket. It requires little actual effort. This is not generally true of success in our society. Secondly, winners of the literal lottery also had careers that they were trying to be successful at. Their lottery ticket was a backup plan. In my model of successful people as lucky, though, that luck is part of their career path. It's not a backup plan, it's the only game in town. So I don't literally think of successful people as lottery winners, but I do think of them as lucky. And I do think that that essential element of luck does make it unfair that they have achieved such riches, while someone equally deserving down the corridor is missing out. That poor but deserving person down the hall is who I'm thinking about when I'm arguing for a strong NHS or a strong welfare state, or for universal basic income. Working to reduce income inequality is seen by some as unfairly penalising successful people, Whereas the idea that a big component in their success is luck makes progressive income tax seem less like theft from the deserving and more like levelling the playing field. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about, and it felt worth sharing. See you soon.